Hi, and welcome to Students with Special Needs, Gifted and Special Education in Filmmaking. Meet Phil STEBBENS, who teaches filmmaking. Phil goes out of his way to create a curriculum that engages all students. He finds that filmmaking is a favorite class for many students with special needs because of the combination of creativity, visual appeal, and flexibility in the projects that Phil presents. The school's counselors know that Phil also makes every effort to work with case managers to support students, so enrolling students with special needs in his class is usually successful. Like many teachers, Phil is aware of his legal responsibilities towards the students who have individual education plans or who have 504 plans. At the start of every semester, Phil reads a copy of each student's IEP or 504 plan so he knows what their goals are and if there are any accommodations or modifications he needs to be aware of. He might make physical changes to accommodate a student in a wheelchair, or instructional changes like using a microphone to help a deaf student hear his instructions. For students like Anthony, preferential seating is part of his IEP. In filmmaking class, this means sitting close to Phil during lectures, which helps Anthony focus. Phil has worked out a silent signal system with Anthony, so if Anthony is confused, he'll touch his chin, and Phil knows to repeat what he just said, rephrase what he just said, or follow up one-on-one with Anthony when the rest of the class starts working independently. Phil finds that his students come from all walks of life, all sorts of cultures, and have all sorts of different interests, skills, and needs. One of his favorite ways to foster a classroom climate of acceptance of those differences is through a project called Someone Else's Shoes, creating a CINEMAGRAPH STEM integrated project, written by Gail Nichols-Ali, a CTE teacher, Casey Byington, a math teacher, and Ken Lovgren, an English language arts teacher. An animated GIF is a CINEMAGRAPH. Phil shows his students a still picture like this one, and then he shows them a CINEMAGRAPH, which is like the still picture, but it has a small amount of movement. Here's a couple samples. Phil invites his students to compare the effect on the viewer and the emotion that is often invoked by a CINEMAGRAPH. His students are intrigued by the concept and are motivated to create CINEMAGRAPHs of themselves. Doing this project at the start of the semester gives Phil's students a chance to work in partners, which is often less threatening than working in a larger group. Phil can also be sure to create pairs where students' strengths and interests are complementary. For students like Sasha, who use wheelchairs, the Someone Else's Shoes project allows her to reveal elements of her disability while highlighting her love of Beyoncé. Phil says the project invites students to see themselves through another's eyes. It can be transformational for some students to step outside of their own worldview. Because of the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics integration, the project also helps students see the academic connections embedded in the field of filmmaking. Phil shares that successful filmmakers do a lot more than just point and shoot. For gifted students like Tim, project-based learning is ideal. Phil has found that gifted students often come across like students with disabilities. They can seem lazy, disorganized, off-task, and sometimes even hostile. Some teachers will say they're bored, but Phil knows it goes deeper than that. Students who are gifted often think in broader strokes. When he gives them the freedom to explore avenues that really capture their attention, it makes all the difference in their behavior. Real-world problems that are truly complex create an engagement with students like Tim that extend far beyond the classroom. Now, it's a common technique to make a gifted student teach the rest of the class, but Phil knows that students like Tim will learn more when they reach beyond their own knowledge. Connecting them with each other, with industry partners, or experts in related fields maximizes their learning. He will still have them bring their learning back to the class and present on the whole, but he doesn't expect them to act as tutors. Phil knows that students learn at their own pace. So his job is to provide a curriculum that motivates them to engage with the concepts and move them forward from wherever they start. Having multiple entry points is critical, and it's easy to do with projects like Someone Else's Shoes. Phil says, each cinematograph is different. Some students add in poetry or quotations. Others animate parts of the photos you would never expect. They are completely captivating. The best part is at the end of the project, everyone feels like they know one another a little bit better. We are a collection of individuals, and yet we are one class. It's really powerful. Thanks for watching.